Hi, Dallas Flyfisher here. Today I wanted to show you another inexpensive aircraft built from parts found at hobbyparts.com. Let's go ahead and start at the front of the plane. The first thing that I'm using is the Alpha 370 1300 kV motor. On this motor you'll see that there's a prop adapter that comes in the kit. On the back of the motor you'll see that it's got a motor mount. It also comes with pre-soldered male bullet connectors and 3 female connectors that you can solder onto your speed controller. One interesting feature that this motor has is these particular parts, the motor mount and the prop adapter, are interchangeable with the Alpha 300 and the Alpha 250 motor. So if you want to swap out motors on a plane, you can keep the same motor mount and just change the motors using the appropriate motor for the size that you want. For example, on this particular plane I'm using the Alpha 370 when I want to use it into hovering mode. When I want to go into a slow flyer, what I do is I put on the smaller Alpha 250 motor, and that runs off of 2 cells, and that gives me a much lighter wing loading. With this, the smaller speed controller and a 2-cell battery, I'm able to achieve about 2 ounces less of weight on my wing loading, and that makes a huge difference. It gives me the ability to turn this into a real slow park flyer. Let me show you kind of a quick way of doing a motor mount. This isn't my design. This is actually something I picked up from RC Power's website, as well as the planes, which is available on his website for a free download. What I did is I took a 2-inch hole saw. Bear with me while I try to pull this off of here. I took a 2-inch hole saw, which is used for drilling doorknobs, things like that, and I cut a motor mount out of a piece of plywood. Then what I did is I laid the metal bracket, this metal bracket right here, I lay that on top of that motor mount, center it with the hole in the motor, and drew the holes to mount the mounting screws. Well, in this case we don't use mounting screws. What we're using is bamboo skewers. You can make smaller holes and use toothpicks for a breakaway motor mount. Brackets, what you see is I just use a rubber band and go from front to back to hold the motor onto the motor mount. This is a very good feature because I can basically swap out motors in literally 2 or 3 minutes. So when I want to go to the Alpha 250, I just simply take the motor mount off, take off those rubber bands, pull the motor off, swap out the prop adapter and the motor mount onto the smaller motor, rubber band it back together, switch out my speed controllers and battery. All of that is done with Velcro, so I don't have to worry about any glue or anything like that, and it can literally be done in about 3 to 5 minutes. So for this particular motor, what I'm running is the blue LiPo battery. It's upside down there, but it's a 3-cell 800 milliamp battery. I'm using the Dynam 9-gram servos. These servos are about $3.40 on hobbyparts.com. You'll notice I've got this set up on a dual servos for the ailerons. There's a servo for the rudder, and on the underside what you'll see is the 18 amp speed controller. This happened to come from the combo kit. I'm using a Spectrum radio, so that's a Spectrum receiver, and another servo in the back for the elevator. This particular plane weighs in at about 11 ounces. Like I said, this is a download plan from rcpowers.com. It's made out of Dollar Tree foam. Dollar Tree foam actually comes in at about 3 to 4 millimeters depending on what sheet you get. So what I do in a lot of instances is, for example on this plane, what I've done is I've left all of the paper on the Dollar Tree foam for the wings and the fuse and the rudder. For the elevator, because of the thinness of the elevator near the pivot point or the hinges, you'll notice that elevator is very thin. There's a carbon spar underneath, but I took 2 layers of Dollar Tree foam and just basically laminated those together using Elmer's craft spray glue, which is foam safe. So is 3M's Super 77 glue. And this gives me a little more rigidity back there, and I just beveled the front edges a little bit so that it wasn't quite as noticeable on the thickness. This particular plane, like I said, comes in at about, I think it's 12 to 13 ounces, just a rough guess. I haven't really weighed it yet. But I did take it out for its first maiden flight yesterday using an 843 prop on this motor. and it didn't quite have enough thrust to hover, but because the motor is plenty strong, I'm going to go ahead and do a flight on this later today using the 1047, and I should have plenty of prop and thrust now to go ahead and hover this plane. I would suggest that if you're new to hobby, go ahead and visit hobbyparts.com. This electronic setup that I'm looking at here, I can break it down for you cost pretty quickly. The blue LiPo battery was about $9. The motor was around $11 to $12, so we're up to 21 bucks. 4 servos at $4 a piece roughly, 16 bucks. All of a sudden we're up to $37. You had a $10 speed controller, you got 47 bucks in electronics. If you've already got a radio, you can make this plane for under 50 bucks. If you need a radio, you can buy the 2.4 gigahertz computer programmable radio from hobbyparts.com for about $55. So you can build yourself a plane for around $100. Now keep in mind, all of these electronics are transferable to other aircraft that you decide to make. So I would suggest that you go ahead and pick up a couple of each of these items and go ahead and find the scratch built foamy plans that are all over the internet and have fun. If you've noticed in my videos, I've shown you now 3 aircraft, all of which have cost me a total of about $8 in foam, and I've used the same components over and over again. Only this time what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've shown you guys the new Alpha 370 motor and the Alpha 250 motor. I want to point out about that is that motor does not come with any mounting hardware, so if you do decide to get this motor, be prepared to purchase the other items separately. I don't know that Hobby Parts has those on their website yet. Do what I did and just pick yourself up an Alpha 370, an Alpha 300, and an Alpha 250. Use the interchangeable motor mounts and prop adapters and build yourself a couple of airplanes and experiment with motors and prop combinations. It's a great way to learn. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.